Terence Crawford said even if he was knocked down by a Mean Machine, as Shawn Porter points out, whoop-de-doo. And we're going to talk about that in this video. You did. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Listen, I don't know how you found my video, but somehow, some way, you made it. Please help others find the content. Reach one, teach one. It's very simple. Throw a like on the video. It's free, simple, it's painless, it's quick. Get that like in there. The more you guys do that, the more others can find the content. This is their one-stop shop for all their boxing needs. Now, Terence Crawford, he did rebuttal. Shawn Porter basically said on his podcast that, like most people, he says, if you know what you're looking at, Terence Crawford was absolutely knocked down by Mean Machine. He says, we saw some challenges in there with Mean Machine. I felt like my promoter, Tom Brown, took a shot at Mean Machine right there during the press conference, but you know there was some adversity there for Terence Crawford, that the fight, I think it took things, and they take a look for themselves in terms of how to reach that kid and touch that kid and what we can put him on his butt with. And he says, oh, it was a knockdown. Don't even ask me. Everybody knows that Mean Machine knocked down Terence Crawford. Crawford has heard this and heard the fans, heard Porter, and he says, my thing is, even if it would have been counted as a knockdown, what does it matter? It wasn't like his fighting, going 12 rounds. I stopped him, so even if it was a knockdown, whoop-de-doo, now what? You scored a knockdown and got knocked out. So Terence Crawford, he sounds, annoyed with the topic. My thing is this. I mean, there's nothing to get like perturbed about or frazzled or annoyed. The reality is Mean Machine should have gotten a knockdown. And anytime there's a missed call, I mean, in boxing, it's always going to be under review. Unlike football, there's no like actual under review. So the fans and fighters and interviewers, they're going to more so talk about it. And I think that's all this is. I think Terence Crawford is taking it a little bit out of context. And of course, this didn't go to the decision. It didn't play on the actual outcome of the fight. But it's something to note that Terence Crawford got dropped by Mean Machine. So, of course, the fighter himself may not want this conversation being had, but that's the reality. And me, this is my job to give you guys my opinion and what I've seen and be fair and consistent. And that's what I'm doing. I like Terence Crawford. He's a beast, but truthfully speaking, it was a knockdown. And I think no more, no less. But in the same vein, I also said that Shawn Porter, I thought that he got knocked down by Ugas and it was a blown call by the ref. So, I mean, anytime these things happen, people are going to talk about it. Crawford, being such a competitor and having that competitive spirit, he probably doesn't like people talking about it, and he wants you to reroute you to the actual outcome. But it is worth noting that should have been a knockdown. It's simple as, there's no more or less. Now, Mean Machine clearly has some level of power. He's an Olympian from Lithuania, and it is what it is. Just because he did it, there's several other guys who haven't been able to knock down Terence Crawford. But I think when you're going up against someone who has the fortitude and is elite like Terence Crawford, that's what you should be doing. You should be like breaking down and assessing their best and worst moments. And keep in mind, I said best because you can't just look at a fighter's worst showing or worst performance and focus only on the negative and expect that person to show up, because you would then be negating the ability to learn and mature and grow. Like, just because Jose Miguel Cotto knocked Canelo Alvarez when he was 18, 19 into the ropes doesn't mean it's going to be easy for the next guy to do it years later. So I don't believe that you should focus only on a fighter's worst performance and expect that person, because you do that more often, you'll probably be disappointed, because people, again, have the ability to adapt, adjust, and learn from their mistakes. Look at Shakur Stevenson. I think he's a prime example of this notion. His last two performances, many people, including myself, thought they were a little bit underperformed. Like, the expectation for Shakur and his skill set, it looked like he could have did more or went about the win. And in more of an emphatic victory. He got the win, how he got the win. But then when he fought Jamel Herring, who was a better name than the last two opponents, Nakathila and Toka Khan Clary, he showed up and put it all together. So he needed that criticism. He needed that to go back to the drawing board and push and fuel him to deliver what he just did. And that was a sensational performance against Jamel Herring. So again, maybe Shakur needed that as added fuel and motivation to put it all together, because he fought a better name, a champion, stepped in as a challenger, and he looked more complete in his last showing against a better name than was the case in his opponents where he didn't really know. So some people rise to the occasion, and if you pressure them and put them their back against the wall, then they're going to show up. So I don't know how much you could take from the Terence Crawford getting dropped. He did actually get dropped by Mean Machine. That's, to me, is irrefutable. I do think Ugas dropped Shawn Porter, but this is just going to happen. When you're a great fighter, people are going to look for those moments where you look human, where you look vulnerable, where you look somewhat beatable, because they're exploring the possibilities, and that's why these conversations are coming up. And as far as fans, it's just because fans are always going to talk about, like, when Wilder drops Fury, if the count was long, if it looks long, things like that. So no biggie. I think Crawford versus Porter should be an excellent fight. Porter, that would give him motivation, seeing that Terence Crawford bleeds and can be dropped and buckled and hurt. Mean Machine also has been on record, and he said that he believes Virgil Ortiz hits harder than Crawford, which doesn't matter because they both knocked him out. But he also said it was absolutely a knockdown, just the same as I'm saying and Shawn Porter. So it is what it is. Crawford, he has his own take. He's going to want you to focus on the end result. He's saying whoop-de-doo. And ultimately, you know, I understand both sides of that coin. You know, Crawford, he's not going to want you to focus on his moment of vulnerability when the outcome was what it was. But then for fans, they're like, hey, okay, pound for pound can be dropped. And it was just a missed blunder and missed call. So it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think and what it means to Crawford Porter. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. And I'm out.